Hi everyone from YouTube, and thank you so much for clicking on the video. This is Rob's Social Experiment, and I'm Rob, and I'm currently reacting to the Netflix TV show I Am Not Okay With This. I've watched one episode, I've enjoyed it very much, and I'm about to get into episode number 2. But before I do, I wanted to mention somebody that's very special and legendary and give that person a shout out, and that's Angie Nielsen. Angie, I hope you don't mind being shouted out by name on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, Angie is my first subscriber ever. Thank you so much, Angie, for liking my videos enough to want to see a second one. I dedicate this video to you, and of course, I appreciate your support, and to the other people that subscribed, I appreciate you guys as well. This is a very small and quaint community at the moment, so I know all of you by first names and some of you by numbers, but thank you so much to you guys as well. The fact that you guys want to see a second video makes me want to make a second video, and here I am doing that. Now, as far as the show goes, I really liked that first episode. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the wit, and I enjoyed it overall. This is a kind of a typical teenage angst situation with the main character having a few difficult things in her life that she's trying to deal with at a time where her body's changing and other complicated things are happening. But where this character has been asked to deal with something particularly unusual is the fact that she has superpowers. Now, at this point, I'm not sure that Sid realizes she has superpowers, or at least she's not acknowledging that she has them. Maybe after she broke the wall, now she realizes maybe she's got them. But it's something very new and difficult for Sidney to come to terms with and deal with. And I think that that makes the show a little bit extra interesting and makes me want to watch it, that much more. Now, before I get into the second episode, I just want to note that the title of the show is The Master of One Fuck, like they wrote it all like cryptic, but I think we all know that that means fuck. So the Master of One Fuck, I think that's referring to Stanley, because in the first episode, Sidney mentioned that Stanley doesn't give a fuck about anything, and I think that she was being complimentary to him at the time, sort of making the point that he's not trying to fit in, or he doesn't care much about what other people think about him. So I think that in this show, Master of One Fuck, we'll find out one thing that Stanley actually cares very much about, or at least that's what I think the episode is going to show us. I think the episode is going to center a bit around Stanley and, show us that he cares about one thing in particular. I suppose that we could take a much more literal approach to deciphering the title, and he's the Master of One Fuck, meaning that in this episode, Stanley has sex with somebody. Would that be Sid? Would it be somebody else? I'm not sure. I'm going to reject that second interpretation only because in the first video I predicted that Stanley would be rejected romantically by Sid, so I'm going to stick to my guns on that and rule out the second interpretation of it, but you never know. I guess we're going to find out. So, does Sidney acknowledge her superpowers in this episode? Does Stanley fill us in as to one thing that he really and truly cares about? Or, even more interestingly, does Stanley get laid in this episode? There's only one way for me to find out, so let's go. It's a pretty good solution, but now scoot the books over to get such a half-assed job.
Last night, I almost convinced myself that I cracked the wall in my bedroom without touching it.
Mom says if you stare at the toaster too long,
so she's still in denial about having the powers. That's just what
happens when you live in a shitty house with a shitty foundation. Stuff starts to crack.
That's because the house is old and crappy.
What Mom doesn't know is that I could do stuff.
Okay. This kid is ridiculous. But he's like low-key smooth at the same time. I don't know, I can't decide.
Hey.
Hey.
See?
You going to school?
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to ride?
Yeah, me too.
You're gonna make him ask.
Can you believe some people are already asking dates to homecoming?
So stupid, it's so far away.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, totally.
She's not catching
Super
on.
far. Like a whole week.
A week.
Decent. And I need to still find a way to buy some fucking groceries and get them fucking home.
Ooh. Okay. So, At this point, it's getting harder for her to just pretend like this stuff is not happening.
There might be more to Stanley
doing?
Barber than I thought.
It's making deals.
What are you, like a drug dealer or something?
I have clients.
Shit, how many?
4. Technically, one's my cousin.
Look, Mom only gave me $50.
That's it? That's all the groceries? Like you could have carried that
Can you
home in
ring
a
it up again? I
backpack. What are you
think
bitching
overcharged
about?
me.
Which item, hun?
All of them? Yeah, it's gonna be the same. Are you gonna pay or what?
Do you need me to sponge you?
No, Stan, just put it all back. It's fine.
Stanley Barber, nice to meet you.
Calm down,
See,
Sid.
Stanley is
Calm down.
low-key smooth. I'm telling you. Ah, that's it.
Just
Something's
calm
happening
down.
in public this time.
Hold it together. Breathe. Breathe.
Breathe, Sidney. Yes.
Breathe, Sid. Just breathe.
Don't think about Brad.
Breathe.
Oof. You break it, you buy it, Sidney. That's terrible.
I mean, maybe she still does, I don't know, but...
Does the mom not live at the house either?
I mean, it sucks that you get them too. I'm sorry about that.
Why are you still talking to me?
Because everyone else in this town's boring.
Good answer, Stanley.
These are the people that will actually attend the 5, 10, 20-year reunion. Because aside from this, nothing else
I went to my
is going to
reunion.
happen.
Man,
This is as good as it gets for them.
Stanley just
I like watching it.
psychoanalyzed my ass.
I can't wait. Yeah, Bradley! Go, Bradley! Woo!
She's having a good time. She's not gonna tell him, is she?
I'll tell you my secrets, Stan. But
She is gonna tell him.
when I tell you, you cannot tell anyone. No one. Understand?
Yeah, I promise.
He's in the comic books. He'll
Just
totally be into it.
Tell him, Sid. I got pimples on my thighs.
And it goes all the way down to my ass. All the way inside my cheeks.
Oh my god. That is so gross.
That's so graphic.
Win.
Brr. Check this out. Bam.
He's
I mean,
maneuvered
you
the
cannot
situation to where
compete,
he's like
and you
got his
cannot
shirt off. They're
compare.
alone at home with no parents.
Wow.
And she's got her pants off.
That is brutal.
Oh, I don't know.
I have never seen something.
I might have
So
been
disgusting.
wrong about Stanley.
I know, right? I don't know exactly how to describe the way I feel when I'm around Stan.
Huh. Okay.
I'm so sorry. Was that bad?
I only know I feel a little less weird.
My apologies, Stanley. I think I was wrong. Okay, that's it for the second episode. I mean, these things are really short. They go by very quickly. It was another good, entertaining episode. Just again, as a general impression, I enjoyed it. I still like Sidney. I like the characters. I like the show. There weren't a lot of characters in this particular episode. As I had predicted before the episode started, based on the title, I thought that it would feature Stanley, and pretty much Stanley was the only one in it. I mean, the mom and the brother, they made an appearance, but, you know, they didn't really add a lot to the episode, and they certainly weren't the focus. It was all about Stanley kind of making his move on Sidney. I said before that it's clear he's romantically interested in her. I think that part continues to be obvious. He was offering her a ride to school when she's in the car. He's mentioning about how homecoming is going to be in a week, and she's like, yeah, it's so stupid that people would want to, make arrangements for that. It's so far away, and it's a week off. So there's homecoming. I'm going to talk about homecoming a little bit more, a little bit later on. But so the episode focuses on Stanley and his time that he spent with Sid hanging out in this episode, and I think that we're going to have to go with the literal interpretation of the episode's name, and Stanley is the master of one fuck, because the way the episode ended, he has his shirt off, she has her pants off, they're at home in his room with no parental guidance of any kind, and they're making out feverishly. So based on the title, I think that we can assume that Stanley and Sid hooked up in the episode. I expect the next episode to confirm that fact for us, but that's what it seems like the case is. Now, I remember that while I was doing the reaction itself and, they were hooking up, I said that I think I may have been wrong about my prediction that Stanley was going to get rejected romantically by Sid. And as I thought about that a little bit during the break that I took between the time the episode ended and now, where I'm sitting here giving you my thoughts, I kind of have a change of opinion on that again. The name of the episode is The Master of One Fuck. So if we're talking about the sex that Stan and Sidney have, that's an unusual way to write it, and it makes it sound like he's only going to have sex with her the one time. So because I want to be right, and I want to stick to my prediction that Stanley and her do not wind up having a romantic relationship, I'm going to cling to that little piece of evidence as further support for my theory. So anyway, they have hooked up, or I think that they have, and I think that'll be clear in the next episode. But it may be the only time that it happens. On the other hand, maybe I'm wrong about that, because it did seem like as the episode went on and as they spent time together, Sidney was really, really beginning to like Stan. There was a moment in time when they were at the high school football game where she makes a comment like, well, I wanted to get a boyfriend just because I wanted to keep up with Dina. But then she said, maybe I don't have to pretend. And she sort of reached over, she grabbed his sunglasses and put them on. And so I really saw that as her kind of admitting that this kid's kind of interesting and I kind of like him. And she said multiple times throughout the episode, there's more to this guy than I thought. He deals drugs and he's just got an interesting life. So I may be wrong about it, because it did seem like Sidney had some genuine like for Stanley, and Stanley deserves to be genuinely liked because he is a nice, interesting character. He did her a favor in this episode, so I don't know. I'm gonna stick to the idea that Stanley and her are not gonna be a couple, and maybe this was just a glitch in the Matrix. But we'll see. But the thing about it is, Stanley was there for her, I think, at two pivotal times in the episode where she was feeling incredibly insecure about something, and he dealt with that thing in a way that made her feel good. For example, after she blows up the convenience store and leaves everything on the ground, she's out, very depressed. He comes over and talks to her, and he thinks that she's having panic attacks. That's sort of how he addresses it. And she says something along the lines, why are you still talking to me? So she's letting us know that she's super insecure about the fact that, she's acting like a freak, because even if that was a panic attack and she knocked all that stuff down with her hands because she had a fit, that's still a pretty disturbing episode. And the fact that he would still be interested in talking to her, why? And that's her question. Why do you still want to talk to me? I'm obviously a weirdo. I just knocked over everything in a convenience store. And so she's very insecure about that. And at that moment, his answer is, because everybody else in town is boring. And that's why I'm talking to you. And she smiled at that comment. Like, that comment really hit home for her. Because he's saying, yeah, I recognize you're a little bit of a weirdo, but I'm taking that as a positive. And she took it as a positive. And you can really see from the reaction in her face and how she smiled and how she lit up that Stanley scored some major points with that answer. And he was just there for her in a moment of, weakness. And he was there. Now, when they're back at his apartment and they're, or his place, and after they've smoked their weed and they're talking their nonsense, she's sharing with him another insecurity, which is her deepest, darkest secret, which is not revealing that she has power, but she reveals that she has zits on her thigh. Obviously something else that she's feeling insecure about. It makes her feel gross or whatever. And again, how does he respond to that? Does he make fun of it? Does he go, oh, that's gross? No, he takes his shirt off. He makes himself even more vulnerable and shows her, look at this thing. Look how horrible this is. And I think he was just there for her at those two pivotal moments, and that really just sort of eroded all of her defenses. You know, and a minute later, they're each half naked and they're making out. So Stanley made some excellent maneuvers, and I'm not suggesting that he was making moves. I think he was just being himself, and who he is a very appealing person, and a very appealing person to Sid. About her power, at the beginning of the episode, she is not acknowledging her power still. You know, she thinks that she's losing her mind. But I think at this point, I don't know that she can deny it anymore. I mean, the sign, like, she physically threw a rock at the sign and knocked it off, and now she saw what happened at the store. She can't say that that's because of a weak foundation or anything else. And Stanley was there and saw that it happened. So I think at this point, Sidney has to have admitted this to herself. But she definitely started the episode still thinking that maybe she's just hallucinating or thinking about things incorrectly. Now, I wanted to talk about homecoming. Like, that's been mentioned now a couple of times. Once in the first episode, where Dina talks about how Brad has asked her to homecoming, and she's going. And in fact, she wanted to double date with Sid. And then now in this episode, you have Stanley saying, hey, you know, isn't it weird that people are asking people to homecoming? You know, obviously he wants to ask Sidney as well. And obviously Sid, at least in that scene, she wasn't catching on, or she was playing stupid. But now that they've hooked up, or we think that they may have hooked up, does that mean that that Sid is going to be going to homecoming, which is a week away? And the reason that I focus on that is because in a lot of shows that deal with teenagers, there's always a homecoming or there's a prom, and whenever those events occur, some really crazy, weird shit goes down at the event. So I'm just highlighting that homecoming is in a week. We know Dina and Brad are going to be there, and now it looks like Sid and Stanley are probably going to be going as well. What happens when you mix that oil and that water in the setting of a prom? I don't know, but I'm predicting that the homecoming dance is going to have some interesting events occur at it. Or maybe they're just going to have a dance. I don't know, but because it's been mentioned now in 2 episodes, I tend to think it's going to be an important or pivotal, you know, event for our characters. The last thing I think that was noteworthy, or at least got me thinking, was what is Stan's parental situation? Like, we know that his dad is a jerk because Stanley doesn't like him to be around, but he's also not around. Like, he's gone 27 days out of the month. So is Stanley just at home alone? Because we've never seen his mom. And then also when he was talking to Sidney about the panic attacks, he's like, well, my mom used to have them. Well, maybe she still does, meaning that he's not sure whether his mom is having panic attack in present time. Is it just because he's 100% aloof when it comes to his mom? I think it makes it seem more like she's just not around. So if Stanley's actually just living in that house for, you know, 27 days a month, completely alone, having to take care of himself. Anyway, I mentioned that because I think that that's an interesting home setup that he's got. I think that Sidney and him can relate a lot on the issue of parenting, or the lack of parenting that they're getting. So I think it's another way that they can connect. So the groceries. Sidney had to go buy groceries, and that was a big deal in this episode. And I was actually kind of annoyed by that whole thing. And I got to figure out who I need to be annoyed at, whether it's annoyance with Sidney or the writers of the show. But here's what I'm talking about. Like, it was made out to be such a big deal. Like, here the mom, she just doesn't give a shit. She's dumping this chore on Sidney, and she doesn't care how Sidney's going to accomplish it. She's like, how am I going to get all that stuff home, Mom? And the mom just doesn't seem to give a shit. You're going to get it home however you got it home the last time. So because of that, now Sidney's got this extra thing on. It's weighing on her mind. She's all upset about it. She's throwing rocks at street signs because it's just another thing that's making her annoyed. She asks her friend Dina for a ride. She's not gonna get it, and then she stoops, you know, to asking Stan and begging a favor of him and wanting to borrow his car. So all that's good and well, and that gives us a reason for the episode to be happening. And then she goes to the convenience store, and she walks into the convenience store with one handheld basket of groceries. Like, really? That's what all the drama was about? Like, you couldn't figure out how to get that home. Like, you have a backpack from school. If you take the books out of it and you put one basket full of groceries in it, guess what? It's going to fit. Or you know what? They put that stuff in bags for you right at the grocery store, and you can hold those with your hands. So if all she was going to buy was a basket full of groceries, like, what was all the drama about who's going to take me and how am I going to get it all back? So am I supposed to be annoyed at Sidney for just being a pain in the ass and wanting to argue with her mom over any little chore she's asked to do, or to make a giant fuss over stuff that's not even a problem? Or are we supposed to be annoyed with the writers who obviously you know, they're the ones that wrote this into the script? So is it just a writing mistake, or they created this, you know, dramatic little event but they didn't? I don't know. The point is, I was expecting it to be a much bigger deal than her having to buy a basket full of groceries. If every time she's asked to buy a basket full of groceries she's going to fall off the deep end and trash a convenience store, then Sidney, you really need to get a hold of yourself. In any event, there wasn't a lot to the episode other than the two of them hanging out and what happened there at the end. I enjoyed the episode. I feel like it's a setup episode for more things that are going to come. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Thanks for being a part of the experiment. I enjoy any comments you might have about the videos themselves and how I'm doing, because like I've said, this is an experiment. I want to get the formula right for you guys and give you guys the type of reactions that you enjoy. Hopefully I'm doing that, and if I'm not, hopefully I'll get better and do that in the future. So anyway, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you like the video, I'd like it if you like the video, and also subscribe. You know, I've got a small following at the moment. I'm always looking to have more people on board with the experiment. So please click subscribe and come along for the ride. I'll be putting up episode 3 in the next day or two. I'll be getting back to that quickly. In the meantime, the giveaway that I mentioned in the first video, no one's claimed that prize yet. I also did the same maneuver in this video. So if you haven't seen the first video, check that out. It talks about the giveaway. That prize is still out there, so good luck to somebody. I hope you guys win it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.